I'm speaking for all of you on your behalf that I'm a very proud Canadian, and I'm very proud because of you, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank you very much for your service. You know, you make us proud to be Canadians. Merci beaucoup pour votre service. Nous sommes très fiers de vous. Merci.
I wish you could see it from up here. This is truly impressive. Good afternoon. Our leader, the Honorable Maxime Bernier, fellow PPC candidates and future members of Parliament, dedicated campaign riding executives, campaign members, national headquarters staff, honored guests, friends. My name is Andy Brooke. I am the People's Party of Canada candidate for Kingston and the Islands, the riding of Canada's first Prime Minister, Sir John A. Macdonald. I am a retired member of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, and I am a client of Veterans Affairs Canada. I'm excited and humbled to be called upon to assist with this policy announcement. Kingston, known as the Limestone City, was the first capital of the United Province of Canada. Kingston has been a garrison town since its founding in 1673 by Comte de Frontenac, Governor General of New France. The first members of the Northwest Mounted Police were drawn from the Royal Canadian Horse Artillery, and they rode through the gates of Fort Frontenac onto the pages of Canada's history from Kingston. My community is home to Canadian Forces Base Kingston, which contributes to the operations of the Canadian Forces domestically and overseas. The Royal Military College of Canada is located in Kingston. By way of introduction to this policy announcement, I have been asked to share my personal story with you. I served 28 years with the RCMP. During that time, I served on the RCMP Special Emergency Response Team. It was Canada's National Counter-Terrorist Team. It was the predecessor to Joint Task Force 2, JTF-2, a Special Forces operation unit with the Canadian Armed Forces. If I may, I would like to take you back to a night in February 1989. As a member of CERT, we were conducting a training exercise at Toronto Pearson International Airport. We were practicing wide-body aircraft assault training and hostage rescue, aircraft hijacking practice. I vividly remember the bone-chilling cold and the bitter, cutting wind that swept across the airport. We were not in a hangar, we were outside. On that night, each of us had been assigned our specific tactical responsibilities. While scaling a Boeing 747 and laden with assault gear, I fell from the outside of the aircraft fuselage, almost 10 meters to the tarmac. Putting this in another perspective, if you have ever watched the 10-meter diving platform competition in the Olympics, I did something like that, but without a pool of water beneath me. I suffered serious injuries. I underwent a number of surgeries. Over the years, other consequential conditions have presented themselves. As a result of my service-related injuries, I receive a disability pension under the Pension Act. To be clear, the system of benefits that was in place before 2006. Remember that date, please. Veterans Affairs Canada serves current and former members of the Canadian Armed Forces and RCMP and their family members. As a veteran and VAC client, I have experienced firsthand the system. Veterans are a community. We have a unique bond of honor and trust. As a community, we lean upon each other for shared strength and mutual support. We also share our stories with one another. Let me tell you about one powerful and troubling example of the inequality and unjust treatment in the current disability system. It is the story of two veterans of the same conflict, the Afghanistan conflict. These two Canadian soldiers belong to the same unit. Both soldiers knew each other and served together on the same mission. Both were injured in 2005. Both, as a result, have permanent disabilities. Both have received disability assessment ratings. They both have the same degree of disability, that is 70%. The one, who applied for disability benefits before April 1st, 2006, the date I asked you to remember, receives a tax-free lifetime disability pension under the old Pension Act. The other, who applied after April 1st, 2006, received a lump sum disability award and the new pension for life. The first receives $2,000 per month. The other, $500.41 monthly. The difference speaks for itself. The Government of Canada has 3 different regimes for veterans' benefits since 2006. The Pension Act, up to 2006, the Veterans Wellbeing Act, previously known as the New Veterans Charter, from 2006 to 2019, and the Pension for Life from April 1st, 2019. The situation as it exists is not fair. In Canada, we now have 3 classes of veterans, each treated differently, and this is not acceptable. Veterans is my heart issue. When I brought this situation to the personal attention of Maxime Bernier, he did not hesitate to act. He not only listened to the concern and proposal from this one candidate in one riding, he empowered us, all of us, to put together a solution and set about to make that possible. Maxime strongly believes and desires this issue to be led by those who know it best, by veterans themselves. The People's Party of Canada does have a plan to treat our veterans with the respect they deserve and to restore fairness. You will now learn how the PPC will correct this inequality. We believe in one veteran, one standard.
Hi, everyone. I was asked to elaborate on the story that I shared with Johanne, so I'll do that. So I was in the middle of Rwanda. I was walking down the street, and I came upon this little girl that was crying, and I'm a dad. Her eyes were running, her nose was running, and she was just sitting there all alone. So me being who I am, I sat down beside her, and I wiped her eyes, and I wiped her nose, and I happened to have some chocolate on me, and I gave her some of my chocolate, and we just sat there, and we couldn't communicate, obviously. I didn't know her language, she didn't know mine. But chocolate resonates with all kids. So I sat there for a while, gave her the chocolate, and she sat there and smiled. And then she got up and walked away. So I asked one of the locals, who is this little girl, and why was she sitting here crying? And his answer, really, it shocked me. The little girl, nobody would spend time with her. She had leprosy. So he shared that moment. I'm pretty sure everybody here has done that same thing. And it's always something that really holds strong for me, obviously. So never before am I more proud today than I am to stand before all of these members here and members of the People's Party of Canada. I am also proud to be standing here with the veterans and now my friends. Today, with Andy Brooke and proud representatives of Maxime Bernier's People's Party of Canada, we are here today to present to you our vision for Canadian veterans across this great nation. For too long, men and women of our proud military have sacrificed only to be forgotten by successive liberal and conservative governments. And today, we have the backs of our brothers and sisters in arms. Today, we remember the sacrifices made by decades of military service personnel and the sacrifice forged all the freedoms that all Canadians enjoy today. Today, we unveil our plan to resurrect those that our governments have forgotten. Today, we take a stand in reestablishing faith in a system that has let so many down. General MacArthur said, "A true leader has the confidence to stand alone, the courage to make tough decisions, and the compassion to listen to the needs of others." He's not set out to be a leader, but he becomes one by the equality of his actions and the integrity of his intent. And to me, that is Max in every way. So in saying that, the Honorable Maxime Bernier, ladies and gentlemen, and fellow veterans, it is our honor to present to you our Veterans Platform, created by veterans for veterans. So the backbone of any military is the character of the men and women who serve. Members of the Canadian Forces make an extraordinary personal commitment to serve Canada before self and put life at limit risk in the interests of the nation. In exchange, Liberal and Conservative governments have starved our military forces of funds, equipment, and support, and broken their trust with veterans. In particular, a present Liberal government would sooner give billions of dollars to other countries than fund our own forces and look after our own soldiers. When a veteran who has lost a leg asked Justin Trudeau in a town hall why his government was still fighting veterans groups attempting to get the support they were promised, Trudeau said, "Because they're asking for more than we are able to give right now." The fastest way to demoralize and undermine a country's military is to fail to look after injured soldiers when they return home or provide for the families for those who did not make it back. Until 2006, veterans injured and disabled by military service received a tax-free lifetime disability pension under the Pensions Act, as determined by a veteran's disability assessment, including support and survivor benefits for spouses and dependent children. On April 1st, the new Veterans Charter replaced the pensions with a one-time lump sum disability payout that wholly inadequately leaving many injured and disabled veterans in dire financial straits. It created two classes of veterans. Yeah, that's what I thought. Our plan. Our plan. The Government of Canada has an obligation to honor the nation's sacred commitment to our military men and women and make sure our veterans receive the support that they deserve.
Thank you, Kelly. There's an old folk saying, there's no education in the second kick of a mule. The Liberals have turned their backs on veterans, and the Conservatives have dropped the ball. Others, too, have sold veterans a false bill of goods. Make no mistake about it, the trust of veterans has not been shaken, it's been broken asunder. How do we go about restoring trust? During the 2015 federal election, then Liberal leader Justin Trudeau promised to reinstate lifelong pensions for Canada's injured veterans. Reinstate is not a difficult word to comprehend. Veterans understood it, and so did the Liberals. Instead of restoring the former lifetime pension as it existed before 2006, there was a sleight-of-hand transformation of the Liberal promise. The Liberals then executed a classic bait and switch. The new pension for life emerged, or if I may, false pension for life. It introduced a third class of veteran, and with it, the inequality among veterans has grown even wider. When in 2018, the Supreme Court of Canada declined to hear the class action case by a group of Afghanistan veterans, the Equitas Society, the legal road came to an abrupt and final end. It meant that there was no obligation in Canada by its government to those who have served in the military. Is it any surprise when one of the plaintiffs said, quote, "Unfortunately, we find out today there is no justice in Canada for our new generation of disabled veterans, and that is troubling indeed." Veterans, the People's Party of Canada has heard your disappointment. We know that your fight in the courts has come to an end. We understand what that means. The media release by the Equitas Society in response to the Supreme Court declining to hear their case stated it succinctly. It reads in part, quote, "The remedy is not in the courts, but at the polls, since the electorate is free to elect a different government to replace the current one." The statement continues, "Therefore, to the extent that the court battle is now over, the political fight must be taken up." Winston Churchill said, "Life can either be accepted or changed. If it is not accepted, it must be changed. If it cannot be changed, then it must be accepted." The People's Party of Canada believes the current situation is not acceptable. Before closing this segment, I would like to revisit the words of Prime Minister Sir Robert Borden, who addressed the Canadian troops prepared for the Battle of Vimy Ridge in April 1917. In part, he said, "That no man, whether he goes back or whether he remains in Flanders, will have just cause to reproach the government for having broken faith with the men who won and the men who died." Sadly, 102 years later, it's outrageous that we find ourselves at this point, arguing whether we as a nation have an obligation, a duty to care for those who serve and to those who have served. Successive governments have broken the faith. The relationship between veterans and the Canadian government is bad. And one veteran shared with me, quote, "It's a blemish on Canada." These are not meant to be easy words to hear. That said, with this policy, we step into a new day. We return to one veteran, one standard.
The Government of Canada has an obligation to honor the nation's sacred commitment to our military men and women and make sure our veterans receive the support they deserve. A People's Party government will recognize and respect the unique sacrifices of those who serve and continue to serve in Canada's Canadian Armed Forces.
A People's Party government will enshrine in legislation the country's obligations to our veterans in a military covenant between the government and those who serve in the armed forces.
A People's Party of Canada government will reinstate the fair disabilities pension as previously provided by the Pension Act. The pension will apply retroactively to 2006, and lump sum payments received since then will be treated as advanced payments.
A People's Party government will instigate a line-by-line review of the new Veterans Charter, including the enhanced New Veterans Charter Act of 2011, to determine which policies and programs should be retained, simplify the system, and make it easier to navigate.
Finally, a People's Party government will return to an emphasis on the legislative guarantee of benefit of doubt, standard under the Pensions Act.